Hi, my name is Brandon Wilson, and today I'm going to inform the reader about the history of ballroom culture and the ways it influenced our culture today. Ballroom culture, also known as drag ball culture or house ballroom community, was founded in the 1990s by queer and transgender African American and Latinx people. Members of the scene would attend a thing called a ball where members would walk to perform to different dance categories, one being performing, lip syncing, modeling, and so forth. The purpose of this was to break gender constructs and social class roles for people who did not fit into the normal American lifestyle at the time, specifically the traditional white American lifestyle. Vogue dancing was introduced during this time. People who would walk these balls were typically scored, the highest scoring being tens. The goal was to get the highest score. Highest scores were typically resulted with prizes, trophies, and glory. The saying "tens across the board" comes from ballroom culture. Highest scores, tens across the board, meaning you get grand prize, as so they would call it. The ballroom scene also introduced houses. Houses in ballroom are essentially a family you create. Many people during the time were ostracized from their families because their families did not accept their lifestyles. Houses were made so people who did not have the family that they would have had with a normal traditional family could have a family with love and this so-called made-up family that they created on their own. One example of a house mother is Crystal LaBeija. Houses had house mothers and fathers to lead the houses whenever they would go perform. Crystal LaBeija founded the House LaBeija along with her friend Lottie, and together they kickstarted the current ballroom scene in New York City in the 1970s. They also are the first credited with having the first ballroom house in today's culture. It has influenced today's culture in many ways, and an early example being Madonna's Vogue, which was released in 1990. This is when Madonna helped shed light on the LGBTQ community about all the situations they were going through with Vogue dancing. She used her platform to shed light on their awareness so people would find more interest in the ballroom scene, which is when ballroom started becoming a more prominent thing known throughout society than it being more of an underground thing. Another example is Beyonce's Renaissance album, along with her Renaissance tour. The album is inspired by house music, which comes from the ballroom community. She released the album at the time where the world was in darkness and that she wanted more love in the air. And ballroom is used to bring for more love and kindness throughout society. The Renaissance tour, there was a segment for her paying tribute to the ballroom community with her dancers who would walk a ball on the stage. The segment lasted around 5 minutes and it would go through different performances of the categories of Vogue performance. She was introduced to this by her uncle, who she calls Uncle Johnny, who introduced her to house music and the ballroom community, and she saw that he found community in there because he was a gay male. Madonna has also paid tribute to the community again during her tour with the Celebration Tour, which included a ballroom segment where dancers would perform different categories and she brought special guests to join them to judge them. Some notable guests being Trixie Mattel and Monet X Change, who are very famous drag queens, would join her on the stage to give tens or give what they would call chops if you didn't do good enough to perform for the dancer on the stage. Taylor Swift also did this during her Bejeweled dance with her dancer Cam Saunders. He does a scene where during the dance he has a little segment where he dances and he does certain moves that originate from ballroom and Vogue performance culture. There have been many different shows that are surrounded by this culture, one being Pose. It takes place during the New York City lifestyle time of ballroom culture in the 1900s, late 1900s. Characters known as Blanca and Electra own their houses, and together they compete to get trophies and put their name on the map. Another show that takes interest from this from ballroom culture is Legendary. Legendary is when they bring all different houses from all these different communities to perform on stage in a competition type show. There were typically 10 houses kept together, and each person a house would be cut to win. And towards the end of the series, they would have a one-on-one performance, and then that would cause them to win grand prize to win the show, basically. During Vogue performance, there is typically things called battles, where two people will go head to head and perform different elements of Vogue performance to win. Like I said, to get tens across the board, or to win grand prize just in general. So in conclusion, ballroom society has been affected throughout all today's culture. It's been inspired by a lot of things. Another example is when Beyonce did a collab with Madonna, and she incorporated different types of houses and all people who are icons from her community in the Vogue remix. So yes, that is how ballroom community. That's what ballroom community is and how it's affected today's society.